The single most important thing companies are looking for are highly skilled, highly educated workers. That's what they're looking for. More than ever before, companies hire where the talent is. Now, I want all the young people here to listen, because over the next 10 years, nearly half of all new jobs are going to require a level of education that goes beyond a high school degree. So first of all, you can't drop out. You can't even think about dropping out. Can't even think about dropping out. But it's not going to be enough just to graduate from high school. You're going to need some additional education. And a good education equals a good job. Now, turning around these schools isn't easy. A lot of people used to argue, well, all they need is more money, but money is not alone going to do the job. We also have to reform how things are done. It isn't easy to turn around an expectation of failure and make that into an expectation of excellence. In fact, it's one of the hardest things you can do. And there's always plenty of naysayers out there who will say it's not even possible, who say that turning around failing school means just throwing good money after bad, who say too many of these schools are beyond repair, who say we ought to give up on those schools and focus on places that have more breaks and have a little more going for them. Here's what I say. I say I am not willing to give up on any child in America. I say I'm not willing to give up on any school in America. I do not accept failure here in America. I believe the status quo is unacceptable. It is time to change it.
I stand here today because somebody at some point stood up when it was hard, stood up when it was risky. Because even though my mother didn't have a lot of money, scholarships helped give me a chance to go to some of the best schools in the country. And I am running for President of the United States because I want to give every American child the same chances that I had. Every single one. In this election, at this defining moment, we can decide that this century will be another American century by making a historic commitment to education. We can make a commitment that's more than just the rhetoric of a campaign, one that's more than another empty promise made by a politician looking for your vote. I often say that the problem with No Child Left Behind is that George Bush left the money behind. And it wasn't just him either. It's pretty popular to bash No Child Left Behind out on the campaign trail. But when it was being debated in Congress 4 years ago, my colleague from Illinois, Dick Durbin, offered everyone a chance to vote so that the law couldn't be enforced unless it was fully funded. A lot of senators, including Senator Edwards and Senator Clinton, passed on that chance. And I believe that was a serious mistake. Because I think we'd all agree that the goals of this law were the right ones. They sound good on paper. Making a promise to educate every child with an excellent teacher is right. You learn how to think critically and find solutions to unexpected challenges. I remember we used to ask our teachers, why am I going to need algebra? Well, you may not have to solve for X to get a good job or to be a good parent, but you will need to think through tough problems. You'll need to think on your feet. You'll need to know how to gather facts and evaluate information. So, math teachers, you can tell your students that the president says they need algebra.
Education also teaches you the value of discipline. That the greatest rewards come not from instant gratification, but from sustained effort and from hard work. This is a lesson that's especially true today in a culture that prizes flash over substance, that tells us that the goal in life is to be entertained, that says you can be famous just for being famous. May you get on a reality show, don't know what you've done, suddenly you're famous. But that's not going to lead to lasting, sustained achievement. And finally, with the right education, both at home and at school, you can learn how to be a better human being. For when you read a great story or you learn about an important moment in history, it helps you imagine what it would be like to walk in somebody else's shoes, to know their struggles. The success of our economy will depend on your skills, but the success of our community will depend on your ability to follow the golden rule, to treat others as you would like to be treated. Labeling a school and its students as failures one day and then throwing up your hands and walking away from them the next is wrong. And by the way, don't tell us that the only way to teach a child is to spend most of the year preparing him or her to fill in a few bubbles on a standardized test. Don't tell us that these tests have to come at the expense of music or art or physical education or science. We are educating the whole child. We are not educating a child to take a test. These tests shouldn't come at the expense of a well-rounded education. They should help complete that well-rounded education. The teachers I've met didn't devote their lives to testing. Jane didn't devote all those years to testing. They devoted them to teaching. And teaching our children is what they should be allowed to do. The fact is, No Child Left Behind has done more to stigmatize and demoralize our students and teachers in struggling schools than it has to marshal the talent and determination and the resources to turn them around. That's what's wrong with No Child Left Behind. And that's what we must change in a fundamental way. I want to lead a new era of mutual responsibility in education. One where we all come together for the sake of our children's success. An era where each of us does our part to make that success a reality. Parents and teachers, leaders in Washington, leaders in the State House, citizens all across America. I don't want to pretend that this will be easy. It will be hard. We have to fix the failures of No Child Left Behind. We must provide the funding we were promised and give our states the resources they need, and finally make our commitment to special education that was promised so long ago. But that alone is not an education policy. Just being against No Child Left Behind is not an education policy. It's just a starting point. A truly historic commitment to education, a real commitment, will require new resources and new reforms. It will require a willingness to break free from some of the same debates that Washington has been engaged in for decades. Democrat versus Republican, vouchers versus status quo, more money versus more accountability. Most of all, it will take a president who is honest about the challenges we face, who doesn't just tell everyone what they want to hear, but what they need to hear. I am running to be that president. And that's why I'm proposing a comprehensive plan to give every American child the chance
to receive the best education America has to offer, from the moment they're born to the day they graduate college. As president, I will put the full resources of the federal government behind this plan. But to make it a reality, I will ask more of teachers and principals, parents and students, schools and communities. And what's not working? What makes the difference when it comes to educating children today? I've gained a lot of valuable insight from these visits, but I'll always remember one trip that I took a while back to Dodge Elementary School in my hometown of Chicago. I was talking to one of the young teachers there. She had been teaching maybe 2 or 3 years, still filled with enthusiasm and idealism, committed to the work. And she was talking about the challenges that she and other young teachers were facing. And she mentioned what she called "these kids" syndrome. The willingness of society to find a million excuses for why, quote unquote, these kids can't learn. It's the idea that these kids come from tough backgrounds, or that these kids are too far behind. And after a while, these kids become someone else's problem. And then she said to me something that I won't forget. She said, "When I hear that term, it drives me nuts, because these are not these kids, they are our kids." Our kids are why all of you are in this room today. Our kids are why you wake up wondering how you'll make a difference and go to bed thinking about tomorrow's lesson plan. Our kids is why you walk into that classroom every day, even when you're not getting the support or the pay or the respect that you deserve, because you believe that every child should have a chance to succeed in a quality public school and that every child can be taught. Our kids is what you're about. There's a lot of talk out there about accountability in education. I believe in accountability. I believe in accountability in every profession, including, by the way, politicians. So I share the concern. I've called for more accountability, but I also believe that before we hold our teachers and educators accountable for the results that our schools need, we have to hold ourselves accountable for giving teachers the support that they need. That's where accountability starts, with a government that puts its money where its mouth is, and with parents and community members who instill the value of education in their students. I am tired of hearing teachers getting all the blame for our collective failures. All of us have to be in it together. All of us have responsibilities. All of us have to make that commitment.